Hello there, Ben Bowers, the Spirit Specialist, and I am here today to talk to you about Mackmyra Bjorksav. I think that's how you pronounce it, and I do apologise to any Swedish people that might be watching. This is the brand new release from the highly regarded and very exciting Mackmyra distillery. This has been launched, I think it is actually today at the time of recording, it is officially available. And I do like Mackmyra. They do some very interesting bottlings. They like to play around with cask finishes and maturation and things like that, and this is no exception. But before I give you an indication of what the whiskey itself tastes like, let me give you a bit of background information about the distillery itself. Mackmyra was founded in 1998 by 8 friends from the Swedish Royal Institute of Technology, who, during an annual ski trip, realised they had all brought along Scotch single malt whisky to share with each other and wondered why there was no Swedish equivalent. Mackmyra is named after a small village near Valbo, southeast of the town of Gavle. The team worked for 4 years on recipes and production techniques before building the main distillery in 2002. A second distillery named Gravity was opened 6 miles away from the original distillery in 2011. The 35-metre high building utilises 7 floors to move the production process down from the top floor where the barley is delivered. Milling, mashing, fermentation and distillation take place on each lowering level, which saves considerable energy. It uses 45% less than the original distillery, and the business continues to work on saving even more. The master distiller is Angela D'Orazio, who was originally a brand ambassador for Glenmorangie before joining Mackmyra in 2002 as part of a tasting panel for developing recipes. She came on board full-time in 2004 after it became apparent she was head and shoulders above everyone else in the team in terms of being able to discern subtleties in flavour profiles, and she continues to be a passionate figurehead for the distillery. Mackmyra is a very experimental brand and regularly releases bottlings matured or finished in different types of casks. Bjorksav means birch sap, and this new edition is inspired by the long-awaited return of spring. Ex-bourbon and Oloroso sherry casks are used alongside those that have previously held a birch sap wine to create a fruity, floral profile. The cask recipe is as such. Around 30% is aged in ex-bourbon casks, around 24% aged in Oloroso sherry casks, around 20% is finished in those birch sap wine casks, 18% is aged in other season casks, and 8% of the whiskey is from Swedish oak casks. Mackmyra Bjorksav is bottled at 46.1%, there's been no chill filtration, and no colouring is added. Right then, so let's see what the whiskey itself tastes like. But first, I am going to show you the box. Now, if you've had a Mackmyra limited edition bottling before, you're probably quite used to this type of packaging, but if you've not, it does look really good. It's got that Scandinavian simplicity about the sort of the font, the look of it, that kind of clean crispness. You know, it's kind of like IKEA-ish in terms of the design and the font and everything like that. So the box, it's got a little hole in there for you to be able to push this out because it gets a little bit awkward, and then you do have the bottle sat inside that box. I should twist it round when I put it on the shelf so that you can actually see what it looks like in there, but it is a nice bit of packaging as well. Price wise, you are looking at about £56, £58 from recollection. Probably should have confirm that before I started filming, but whatever. But I was very lucky that Mackmyra actually gave me a bottle for sampling. So I do have this. I did try a little bit yesterday when it turned up. So spoilers, I quite like it. But I am going to be using this on a couple of tasting events as well, and I can't even get the top off. That's not a good start, is it? There we go. So 46.1%. I'm going to have a little bit because I want to save it for my customers. Let's put this back on the shelf and try not to knock it over. That would not be a good thing to do. Right, so let me see if I can give you an indication of what we're looking at here. On the nose, quite light almost instantly. Definitely floral, it's quite fragrant, but there's a little spiciness in the background there as well. There's a soft sort of kind of fudgy sweetness to it, but then in the background there is a sweet spice, not quite cinnamon, not quite nutmeg, but there's a definite fragrance to it. It reminds me a little bit of Kamiki, which is the Japanese whiskey that is it finished or matured, one or the other, in Japanese cedarwood, and that has a really unusual floral, fragrant woodiness, and this is quite similar. This has got a bit more fruit to it than the Kamiki, to be honest, which actually does it a favour. There's kind of like orchard fruits, but there's like pear, poached pear, but poached pear in red wine, kind of that sweet fruitiness of the red wine with a poached pear. It kind of reminds me of poached pears in red wine, and you throw a cinnamon stick in there as well. It's not a spiciness that's Christmassy, but it doesn't quite evoke spring as I thought it might. There's a bit more roundness to it, and actually that is a good thing, because the danger is that you talk about, oh, we're inspired by spring, and it ends up being quite light, but there's not much to it. This is light. There are top notes, but there is also there's a nice warmth to it as well, and there's a lot going on just on this nose. A lot of different types of fruits and flavours and spices, and there's a lot of complexity for something that's still actually quite light. Right, let's see what it's like on the palate, because I could probably nose this all day, and I do like whiskies that you can nose a long time. So on the palate, you get a bit more woodiness comes through, but it's a soft, sweet woodiness. It's quite, again, floral, fragrant. The oakiness that's there is not a dry oak, but there is the woodiness. Woodiness I don't really like as a term, because it's actually sounds like a detriment. But the oakiness here is less of an oak, it's more floral. Again, I get elements of that Kamiki, which again was one of the most unusual whiskies I've ever had, and I really liked because of it. And this has this unusual woody element, because it's birch, but it's like there's a sort of weird kind of pine, cedary birchness. It's clearly that Bjorksav wine is having an influence, and considering what the cask makeup is, you're only looking at sort of 20% of the entire recipe in this whiskey has that Bjorksav element, but it definitely comes through. It's quite distinctive, and that fruitiness is still there. It's not quite as pronounced on the nose, but it's still balanced really, really well. And actually, I think if the palate was the same as the nose, it probably would be maybe lacking something, but I do like that extra kick of oak that's coming through there. There's touches of ginger in there, like a light ginger, not ginger root. It's not spicy in any way, but there's a sweet gingeriness that comes through. Again, that fudginess is there. It's really complex, but still quite delicate. I'll be honest, if I had this on a tasting blind, I would actually probably think that this was Japanese. This has a finesse and a subtlety that some of the best Japanese whiskies have as well, which tends to be slightly more floral, slightly more fragrant, but there's a finesse, there's a style, there's a delicacy to it. And this has that in spades. Really, really impressed with this. I've had some other Mackmyras. One of my favourite whiskies, not just a Mackmyra, is one called Scotch, which was finished in Massey Amarone casks, and it had a fantastic rich fruitiness to it that it had picked up from that red wine cask. This is the other end of the spectrum. This is very light, it's very delicate. I get why they're saying it's, spring-like. It has a freshness to it, but it's not light and flabby. It's light with a bit of backbone to it. I think for some people, it might be lacking just, oomph to it, and that's fine. But if you're looking for a very easy drinking whiskey that has a lot of complexity, and this has got a lot going on, you could write a shopping list of all the different flavours that are within this whiskey. Like I say, nosing it, I could nose that for ages. There's so much going on in there, and every time I nose it, it keeps changing. There's new things coming up in there. The finish is not massive, but it is there, and it's just because of the types of flavours that they are naturally going to die off potentially a little bit quicker than some other sort of heavier flavours. But actually that works quite well, because I think if it lingered, it might become a little bit too fragrant potentially. Again, a different flavour now. Sort of a lemoniness. Yeah, that's the word, a lemoniness. Really comes through there. It becomes quite citrusy. There's kind of like lemon peel and even a little bit of lime. Dare I say, this would actually work very well in a cocktail. I have recently started drinking Scotch and sodas. Not regularly, but literally 2 weeks ago, I had never had a Scotch and soda in my life. I put some Scotch and some soda together, and that was about it. Thought it was a bit boring. Went on social media and said, look, what am I missing? And a lot of people were saying, look, you need more ice, and you need like a orange wedge or something like that. You need, with a Scotch and soda, you need some kind of citrusiness to kind of bring those flavors out. And this, I think, would be absolutely fantastic. There are going to be some people there going, hang on, what are you doing putting that with soda? But actually, to be honest, I think in a whiskey cocktail that has a lighter touch, that's looking for some kind of citrusy element, I genuinely think this will work really well. 46.1%, I do think that the alcohol level is pretty much bang on. I think if it was any higher, if it was like 48, 50, you'd get too much of a bite. But at 40, 43, it would probably be a little bit too light and a bit too flabby. They've got that ABV pretty much spot on. There is enough of an alcohol kick to lift those flavors, but it's not overpowering. I'm really, really impressed with this. It's another different expression from Mackmyra. As I say, I would warn some people, if you aren't a fan of light, delicate whiskies, if you want big, beefy, you know, sherry matured, red wine, big fruity things, this is probably not for you. But if you like a whiskey that is very easy to drink but has lots going on in there, you can spend some time on this. You can sit back and actually spend some time with this whiskey and try and pick out the flavors. Or you can have a nice glass of this and just drink it while you're concentrating on someone else. Lightly chilled. I wouldn't like necessarily put this in the freezer, but I think lightly chilled, as it's awful weather outside and we're heading into spring, but I think as a spring summer when the sun's out and it's really nice and warm and you sat in the garden and you want to chill out, just lightly chilled out the fridge. I wouldn't put ice with it, but I put the bottle in the fridge just for half an hour and then pour it out. I think that will work really, really well. And as a long drink with soda, with lemonade, something like that. Lemonade might sweeten it too much, but actually Scotch and soda with this as a long drink in a highball, I think would be absolutely fantastic. But on its own, superb stuff. Really, really like it. I think it's interesting. I prefer it to the Appleblom, which was the finish that they did was in Calvados casks, and it for me personally didn't quite balance. I think some of their experimental casks, as they're experimental, some work, some don't. Again, personal taste, and some haven't worked for me and some really have, and this is on the side where it really works. I really, really like this. It is available in store, as you can see, because I have it on the shelf up there that came in yesterday. www.spiritspecialist.com. We do offer nationwide UK delivery. You're also welcome to come into the shop, have a little try of it if I've got any left, because I'm going to be putting this on a world whiskey tasting for a whiskey club. But if I've got any left, you're more than welcome to try it. I do recommend it. Yes, congratulations, Mackmyra. You have done it again. Another cracker. Right. That's me done. I shall see you in the next video. Cheers.